everyone, Weston with Carry Concealment again. Today I get to gush about my absolute favorite polymer striker gun, and that is the CZ P10 lineup of firearms. And I'm going to kind of explain why I think this is the best it gets currently, and you guys can fight me on that a little bit if you want. So why do I love the P10s? This one right here, this is my EDC. It is a P10C optics ready, and it's got a 507 on there because I got too many damn guns and spending huge money on optics. I am a slightly cheap guy on that. So 507s work great for me. Haven't had issues with the optic plates, although I do prefer direct milling. And the P10C is just an exceptional EDC. Let's get into why that is. So the first thing I'm going to say is that I chose a P10C originally for one reason, and it is very personal, but also kind of silly. When I hold a Glock 19, which I was EDCing prior to this, my pinky just barely hangs on there because I do have a larger hand. And one day I got a really ugly blood blister from doing mag reloads. Whatever. I decided I don't need to work around my Glock. I just need to get a gun that fits me better. So I was searching around, and lo and behold, the P10 is the only gun that does things the Glock does well, but fixes that one particular issue. It wasn't until later on that I found out that I actually enjoyed the P10 even more for other reasons, but from the store, the reason why I bought this thing is because the grip length is just a little bit longer, as is the slide, which who cares? But that extra grip length for me, a guy with bigger hands, was phenomenal. Like most guns, it comes with exchangeable back straps, and the small back strap is actually better for smaller handed people than the smallest Glock grip. Anyways, so it can fit small-handed shooters better than a Glock, and it also helps the larger-handed shooters with the extra grip length. So I absolutely love that. So regarding the rest of the gun and the controls of it, there's striker gun controls. There's nothing really to write home about here. It's got a button to drop mags. It's got a slide stop thing to make the slide do things. I will say the slide release is extremely low profile. It can be a little bit tough to get on, but that's really not much of an issue that you can't train around. But we're going to talk about two things specifically that really set this thing apart. One of them is, and this is a Glock trait, this has got to be one of the lowest bore axis guns on the market. PDPs, M&Ps, 320s, they all have really tall slides, and the barrels sit higher above your hand than a Glock or a P10 will. There are a couple other guns like I believe the AREX and some other guns like that sit kind of low as well. But that whole Glock type deal where the gun just sits super low in the hand makes the recoil impulse super nice because your fulcrum is much lower than if your barrel was higher up. So I really enjoy how this gun is under recoil. And then I got to get to the best part about it, and that's the trigger. This particular trigger has about 2,000 live fire rounds and probably north of 6,000 dry fire rounds through it. So it is just well broken in at this point. And it's just got such a nicely defined wall. You just get right on that thing. It doesn't creep. It doesn't do anything funky. And then all of a sudden, one of the crispiest breaks I've ever felt. Just got that carrot kind of thing going on. It is probably about 6 pounds, so it's not exactly light, but it's such a nice, clean setup. And then the reset is just right back to the wall. Don't shoot from reset. If you are, you're doing it wrong. But I do like a strong return spring, which this has, and then there's basically no over travel to get back on the trigger. It's exceptional, and it is one of the things, along with the bigger grip, that told me that this was going to be better for me than a Glock. The texturing on the grip is a little bit aggressive. I do like that for just about everything except for when I'm EDCing this thing directly against my skin. Kind of stinks. I did take some sandpaper to this surface here to kind of help with that during the summer. Modify your tools to work for you is what I say. So if that means a little bit of sandpaper to knock down some of the rough edges, do it. Who cares? Anyways, fantastic firearm. Completely reliable for me. I've never had major issues with the P10s, you know, outside of feeding it really crap range ammo. But these things just eat and eat and eat, and it's a great form factor for somebody like me. So now we're going to step it up a little bit. I'm going to show you the next one in the P10 family. If there is a do-all gun in my arsenal, it is this one right here. It's the P10F. It is the longer version of the P10. Not quite as long as the 34, but we're getting close. You can see where the X300 kind of lines up on there. It's the exact same gun as the P10C. aesthetically, ergonomically, all those things. It's just longer. And in the grip, absurdly long. Actually, if I was a 6-fingered dude, I could get my 6th finger hanging right over here. 19 round flush fit magazines. Otherwise, same great trigger, same great, controls. Slide release, still kind of low profile, and for a more overt type gun, I do wish it was a little bit wider, but it's a small nitpick. This one in particular is the non-optics ready. There were some rumors flying around that the US-made optic-ready P10Fs had some barrel inaccuracy issues. I can't speak to that specifically, but do keep that in mind. Rumors are rumors. Anyways, non-optic ready gun, this one. I had this slide sent off to Floyd's Custom here in the Idaho area, and oh my lord. Floyd, what are you doing to me, buddy? This 509 is milled so stinking deep into this thing that it'll like lower 4th co-witness the factory iron sights. It's perfect. It's so absurdly low, and it just makes it so natural to point and shoot and find the dot and track the dot. And the recoil impulse, the dot just stays right in the window. It's absolutely my favorite handgun right now. I have more expensive guns. Doesn't matter. This is where it's at. So let's go on to the next one and kind of round out this discussion on P10s. Woo-key dokey. This one is a love-hate for me, actually, which I'm sure kind of surprises some of you. This is the P10 competition. It takes what the F does really well and then just gives you a little bit more slide and barrel and some gold shiny bits, essentially. It did also come with a gold agency trigger, I believe is who made it, and then the agency slide release and a bigger mag release. So that's how they made it the competition spec. I do wish they had done some things differently with this model. The reason I bought the competition is because the P10C is my EDC gun. I don't take it to the shop, unless I'm wearing it, but it's just the gun that I carry every day. The P10F is the shop gun. It gets used for holster fitment stuff. I wanted to have a P10 that I could do whatever the heck I wanted with that didn't need to be tied to the shop, and so the competition made sense to me at the time. I don't need the extra barrel length. It is what it is. This is Glock 34 in length, just for reference. I don't really care for all the gold bits that they put on it from the factory. That's not my style. But I gotta tell you, it let me down. The trigger was worse than a P10F factory trigger. It had more over travel. It was a lighter break, which I didn't really care so much about. But then the return was horrible as well. So I was really disappointed in the trigger. I went out and just spent more money instead of getting a factory one and bought an Overwatch. The Overwatch did fix the over travel issue. It is still a lighter trigger than the factory ones, but it just overall is not better. So I don't really get it. I have since played with striker springs, ran into some reliability issues with that, went back to factory. I do have a 14-pound recoil spring in here and a tungsten rod, and that has helped some. And then the big bubba right on the back of this thing is a Taylor Freelance brass back strap. This has actually been the only upgrade worth doing if you were going to take a P10F and make it a competition gun, which is adding a little bit of weight in the grip. It just takes the balance, moves it rearward a little bit. Such a nice feeling firearm in the hand. And then I got to talk to you about the slide controls a little bit. So it came with a monstrous button, and I went to a match, brand new out of the box. I'm going to go shoot this thing. Slapped an SRO on it, and actually zeroed out the match, which was, don't do that. But first stage, boop, and the mag just fell right out. And I thought, okay, well, I probably just didn't seat it very well. My bad. Grabbed another mag off my belt, shoved it in there, got my grip back, boop, fell right out. The mag release button is so stinking big. The way that I build my grip, which I would call a modern grip, it just kept hitting the release and sending mags flying. Super embarrassing at a match. I had to have a funky grip the rest of the day. Really stunk. So I came back and did what I do with my guns. I just kind of made it work for me, and I just sanded down the button so that it's out of the way. Then the little slide stop slide release here, it is actually quite large, and I like it. It works really good. Absolutely no way this gun will ever lock back on empty for me, which in competition I don't really care about, so I'm fine running it. This gun overall is definitely not any better than a P10F. It's better for me because I can play with it and do things with it that the shop isn't affected by, but otherwise if you're going to compete with a P10, just get the F and get a brass thing and just dry fire the heck out of the trigger and get it worn in. I honestly think that is the best way to go. And I do recommend Floyd's optic cutting after seeing what he did with my F. Altogether, this is a phenomenal family of firearms. If you are in the market for a do-all gun, you want a new EDC, you want that Glock 19 type category, which there's so many firearms competing for that space. If you haven't considered a P10, you are seriously mistaken. You need to look at these things, feel the gun in hand. I can almost guarantee you'll say, yeah, that feels better than a Glock grip. The triggers, like I said, are exceptional and substantially better than some of the competition. The one downside about getting into the P10 family is that there's not a ton of aftermarket support. I can think of 4 or 5 companies that are really making parts for these things. And in that catalog, parts catalog, there's not a ton of stuff you can do to these things. But if you don't need to anodize every part on your own and really get crazy with customization, excellent, excellent, excellent setup. I will wholeheartedly recommend this P10F or the C to anybody that I come across, because they have treated me so well and they're such phenomenal shooters. Every single time I go to the range, I hand this to somebody else, they shoot it and say, holy smokes, I love that freaking gun. It's unanimous. I am 1000% biased in that this is my gun. So of course I'm going to recommend it to people because I believe it's the best. It does not mean it's the best for you, but it is for me. So that's what I have to say about that. One thing I am going to pick CZ apart about just a little bit is their lack of a 48, 43X competitor. They do have, I believe it's called the M, which is a single stack version of a P10, very small micro compact gun. It's single stack though. What the heck? Like, we are way past single stack little 9mm plastic guns. I think CZ needs to get their poop in a group and get a 48, 43X size gun with 10 rounds, 12 rounds, 14 rounds, something like that, to start competing with the macros and the XLs and the 48s of the world. And if they do that, I think the P10 will round out the lineup as absolutely the best polymer guns on the market. And you can fight me about that. Thank you guys for tuning in and having a look and listening to me rant and rave about the P10s. I hope you guys are having a great week. Take care.